I wanted her to call me at any time. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. It didn't matter. I actually neglected my family because I made sure that I went hunting for her. And it meant a lot to me. So I would even do it on my own time because every time I see my daughter, the first thing I thought of was Susana. And so it was driving me to find her because I mentally was telling myself that we are going to find her. I made sure that I told Jasmine that I will give my...
July 26, 2022. Norcross, Georgia. At 9:40 p.m., a 16-year-old girl sent a simple text message to her mother. "I'm walking home." The distance was short. The route was familiar. She never arrived. Her phone stopped transmitting minutes long. No witnesses. No confirmed sightings. No explanation. 6 months would pass before investigators uncovered what happened that night, and the person responsible would shock the community. This is Case Note Studio. We document real criminal justice cases, examining the evidence, the decisions, and how the system reached its outcome. On the evening of July 26, 2022, Norcross, Georgia was settling into an ordinary summer night. The heat lingered in the pavement. Apartment complexes along Beaver Ruin Road were quieting after sunset. Residents moved between buildings, some walking dogs, others returning home from work. It was the kind of suburban rhythm that rarely draws attention. 16-year-old Susana Morales was part of that rhythm. She was a student in Gwinnett County. Family members described her as responsible and independent. She had routines. She kept in contact. She followed expectations set by her parents. Nothing about July 26th suggested deviation from those routines. That evening, Susana visited a friend at an apartment complex near her own home in Norcross. The distance between the two locations was short, walkable, familiar, and well within the boundaries her family considered safe. At approximately 9:40 p.m., Susana sent a text message to her mother. The message was simple and direct. She was walking home. It would be the last confirmed communication from her. No witnesses reported distress. No emergency calls were placed. There were no confirmed sightings of a confrontation. The route was one she had likely taken before. The distance was measured in minutes. But she never arrived. Before July 26th became a date attached to a homicide investigation, it was simply part of Susana's teenage life. She lived with her family in Norcross within Gwinnett County. The area is densely populated, a mix of residential neighborhoods and apartment complexes. The Morales family maintained close contact with their daughter. She was not someone who disappeared for long stretches without explanation. Her parents monitored her movements. Communication was consistent. There were no known behavioral red flags in the days leading up to her disappearance. No reports of threats. No documented conflicts escalating toward violence. No indication that she planned to leave home or sever contact. Investigators later confirmed that her phone showed normal activity patterns prior to 9:40 p.m. That routine digital footprint would soon become central to the case. July 26, 2022, Norcross, Georgia. At 9:40 p.m., the timestamp on Susana's message marked the beginning of the critical window. Phone data would later confirm that her device remained active briefly after that message. Then activity stopped. No further outgoing texts. No completed calls. No additional social media interaction. Authorities later determined that her phone ceased normal transmission along the path between the apartment complex and her home. When Susana failed to arrive home within a reasonable amount of time, concern escalated quickly. Her family attempted to reach her by phone. Calls went unanswered. Messages were not delivered. Minutes stretched into an hour. By late evening, the situation had moved beyond routine delay. When Susana could not be located, her family contacted authorities. The Gwinnett County Police Department initiated a missing person investigation. Officers responded. A report was filed. The timeline was documented precisely. Investigators began by canvassing the immediate area. They searched along the walking route. Officers spoke with residents of the apartment complex where she had last been seen. They requested access to available surveillance systems. Early stages of missing person cases often rely on immediate physical searches. Officers retraced her path. They examined wooded areas, parking lots, stairwells, and common areas. No immediate physical evidence was located. No confirmed eyewitness came forward stating they saw Susana after 9:40 p.m. Her phone was no longer transmitting usable real-time location data. Investigators began collecting surveillance footage from nearby buildings and businesses. Surveillance review in suburban apartment complexes is methodical. Cameras are often mounted at entry gates, parking areas, and building stairwells. Authorities confirmed they reviewed hours of footage covering the critical time window. Some cameras captured general pedestrian movement. Vehicles entered and exited the complex. Residents returned home. But Susana's precise movements between 9:40 p.m. and the loss of phone signal were not fully documented on available cameras. Investigators also examined cell tower pings associated with her phone. Data showed movement consistent with someone traveling the expected walking path. Then the signal stopped. No witnesses. No confirmed confrontation. No recorded vehicle stop tied immediately to her disappearance. At this stage, law enforcement treated the case as an urgent missing juvenile matter. Search efforts expanded. Family members organized search groups. Flyers were distributed throughout Norcross and neighboring communities. Social media campaigns amplified her description and last known location. Gwinnett County Police deployed additional resources. Officers conducted door-to-door inquiries. They asked residents if they had seen unusual activity that night. Tips began to come in, but none were definitive. Authorities confirmed there was no immediate evidence she had left voluntarily. No travel bookings. No financial transactions. No planned meetups documented in her digital history for that evening. Investigators also reviewed her online communications. Nothing indicated she had arranged to meet someone unknown. As days passed, the absence became heavier. No sightings. No ransom demand. No suspicious withdrawals or phone reactivations. The case began to shift in tone. Within the first weeks, investigators broadened the scope of inquiry. Phone forensic analysis deepened. Authorities extracted additional metadata from her device records. They mapped out the final moments of signal transmission. Investigators began identifying individuals who were present in the apartment complex at the time she was walking home. Every resident in proximity became part of the broader data set. Authorities confirmed they reviewed license plate reader data in the surrounding area. They compared timestamps to the 9:40 to 10 p.m. window. No immediate arrest followed. The case extended into months.
I wanted her to call me at any time. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. It didn't matter. I actually neglected my family because I made sure that I went hunting for her. And it meant a lot to me. So I would even do it on my own time because every time I see my daughter, the first thing I thought of was Susana. And so it was driving me to find her because I mentally was telling myself that we are going to find her. I made sure that I told Jasmine that I will give my...
By fall 2022, Susana remained missing. Her family continued public appeals. Law enforcement maintained that the investigation was active. Behind the scenes, digital evidence review intensified. From July through the end of 2022, no public breakthrough emerged. Investigators continued analyzing cellular data records, surveillance angles that had previously been overlooked, vehicle movement logs, and apartment complex access points. Authorities confirmed that there were no verified sightings of Susana after the night she vanished. The absence of movement data became increasingly significant. There was no activity on her phone beyond the initial cutoff. No debit card usage. No digital login attempts from new locations. For investigators, Prolonged digital silence often signals that a device was intentionally disabled or destroyed. The working theory began to narrow. On February 6, 2023, more than 6 months after Susana disappeared, authorities located human remains in a wooded area in unincorporated Gwinnett County.
February the 6th, a citizen who was walking in the area of Drowning Creek Road and Highway 316 happened upon skeletal remains, and they were positively identified as having belonged to Susana Morales.
The location was removed from her normal walking route. Investigators secured the scene, and forensic teams processed the area methodically. Authorities later confirmed the remains were identified as 16-year-old Susana Morales. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. The discovery marked a turning point. The case was no longer a missing juvenile investigation. It was now a homicide investigation with a defined timeline stretching back to July 26, 2022. Investigators revisited every digital record from that night with renewed urgency. Phone data, location mapping, apartment complex residency logs. Patterns that had once seemed incidental began aligning. Authorities confirmed they began focusing on an individual who lived in the same apartment complex as Susana. Phone data showed proximity. Vehicle data showed presence. Timeline overlap became increasingly difficult to dismiss. Investigators examined this individual's movements on July 26 in detail. Digital records placed him near the walking route during the precise window when Susana's phone stopped transmitting. Authorities confirmed that the individual had prior law enforcement experience, a detail that intensified internal review procedures. Investigators began preparing a warrant strategy, compiling digital evidence, location analysis, and movement data. By early February 2023, law enforcement believed they were narrowing in on the person responsible, though they had not yet publicly disclosed the evidence that led them there. The case was being built carefully. The next phase would shift from suspicion to arrest. In February 2023, investigators with the Gwinnett County Police Department moved forward with an arrest. The individual they had been examining was identified as 22-year-old Miles Bryant, a former officer with the Doraville Police Department. At the time of Susana's disappearance, he was living in the same apartment complex. Authorities confirmed that Bryant had resigned from the Doraville Police Department months earlier following unrelated internal issues. Investigators constructed a timeline linking Bryant to the night of July 26, 2022. Phone data placed him in the vicinity of Susana's walking route during the critical time window. Authorities reviewed Bryant's cell phone records, GPS data, vehicle telematics, and apartment complex surveillance. The data showed movement patterns consistent with someone traveling through the area when Susana disappeared. Investigators compared his location history to hers. The proximity was documented. Authorities stated that Bryant's digital footprint showed activity inconsistent with his normal routine during the relevant period. Vehicle data analysis became central. Investigators examined geolocation information associated with Bryant's vehicle. Movement data placed it near the route between the friend's apartment and Susana's home. There were no witnesses, no emergency call, but the digital overlap was measurable. Authorities stated that Bryant had no legitimate reason to intercept Susana along that path. Investigators concluded that he encountered her while she was walking home. Authorities later stated that Bryant transported Susana away from the apartment complex. Digital mapping showed travel patterns consistent with the location where her remains were discovered. Cell data from Bryant's phone aligned with the wooded area in unincorporated Gwinnett County. The timeline was reconstructed carefully. At 9:40 p.m., Susana texted her mother. Shortly afterward, her phone stopped normal activity. Bryant's device showed movement through the same corridor. Later data placed his phone in the wooded area where remains were eventually found. Investigators determined that Susana was killed the same night she disappeared. Authorities confirmed there was no evidence she survived beyond July 26. On February 2, 2023, investigators arrested Miles Bryant.
It's sad. It's terrible.
What department you work for?
Cedar Doraville Police Department.
That's right.
Okay. You're just a courtesy officer. How long you been living there?
Maybe a year.
He was charged with malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and concealing the death of another. Authorities stated that the charges were supported by digital evidence, location data, and investigative findings compiled over several months. The arrest shocked the community. Bryant had once sworn an oath as a law enforcement officer, and the allegation that a former officer could be responsible intensified public scrutiny. Following his arrest, Bryant was held without bond.
Ready? Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. And you can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Okay, you understand? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Prosecutors outlined their case in preliminary proceedings, emphasizing digital tracking evidence, phone location overlap, vehicle movement, and proximity to the remains site.
God, bro, what?
So what's going to happen if there's going to be a forensic downloads done on those phones? You can't delete anything off of them.
Yeah.
Even if you do try physically, you can delete it. But we're going to see everything, like everything. Listen to me. There were no other devices out there. Mm-hmm. None at all. Your device was the only one out there. She went missing. She died there. Your gun is there. Your phone.
No public evidence indicated accomplices. The case moved forward through the Georgia court system.
He was supposed to serve and protect. He is one of the people that we should trust to enforce the law. Somebody we should hold to a higher standard. But he didn't do any of those things. Instead, he abused the law. And he used his badge and he used his position to satisfy his own sexual desires.
With prosecutors preparing to present a structured timeline built heavily on digital forensics, the case raised broader questions about trust and oversight. Bryant's former employment was scrutinized, and community members questioned accountability mechanisms. Authorities clarified that he was not an active officer at the time of his arrest. Still, the overlap between prior law enforcement authority and the alleged crime amplified public reaction. At the center of the investigation was a 16-year-old girl walking home. A routine walk, a short distance, a familiar path. Her last text message marked a precise moment in time. 9:40 p.m., July 26, 2022 in Norcross, Georgia. From that timestamp forward, investigators reconstructed her final movements through data trails, movement mapping, and months of forensic review. The case continues through the Georgia court system. The digital record remains central. No witnesses. No voluntary disappearance. No return home. Only a timestamp, and the evidence that followed. After months of investigative review and court proceedings, the case moved into the Georgia judicial system. Prosecutors formally charged Miles Bryant with malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and concealing the death of another. Investigators presented a case built largely on digital evidence. Phone data showed proximity. Location records mapped movement patterns. Vehicle data aligned with the area where Susana's remains were discovered. There were no eyewitnesses to the abduction. No public video of the crime itself. But prosecutors argued that the digital timeline left little ambiguity. The court reviewed the evidence. Judicial proceedings examined the sequence of events reconstructed from July 26, 2022. Ultimately, the charges carried the possibility of life imprisonment under Georgia law. The case remains within the Georgia court system, with formal adjudication and sentencing determinations proceeding according to state procedures. For Susana's family, the legal process represents a structured pursuit of accountability. For the community, it underscores a difficult reality. Technology can reconstruct movement, proximity, and opportunity, even when no one physically sees the crime occur. The sentencing phase, when finalized, will determine the legal consequences imposed by the state. But no sentence can restore what was taken. Susana Morales was 16 years old. The court can assign punishment. It cannot return a life. And that distinction remains at the center of this case.